Muktar, first, let's wade into how the markets performed last week. And for you, what's driving it?
Well, what we're seeing now, we're just seeing value investment. That's what people are doing now. You're looking at good equity with good fundamentals, looking at the long-term benefit that will come from those equities. And you could see that driven with volume that we saw from Guarantee Holdings, Zenith Bank, and Access Bank. So definitely that's what will be driving the market. Everybody is looking at value investment and looking at equity that are selling below their prices. So we could say that people are doing bargain hunting. So definitely, we expect that to continue before a trigger come in the form of any half-year earning results. Then we will see a change in direction. But for now, we'll continue to see value investment playing a leading role in terms of investors' sentiment in the market.
All right, we'll get into your expectations for earnings a bit later, but for now, I want to talk about what we're seeing play out in the fixed income market there, the more attractive yields there, and how that is swaying investors. We saw how that, impacted the markets towards the tail end of last year. Do you think we're going to see something similar?
We might see, but like I said, the investors have perception and expectation. When you look at what we're thinking about the fixed income, we're looking at 90 days period. We're looking at inflation by the fixed income rate that you've seen. Then you in term again, you like I said, value investment, and you've seen bargain hunting in some of these stocks, because what we're seeing in the fixed income space in terms of the returns, if you accumulate with some of the dividend payout that might come in from most of this company at the year end, and then you will see that in terms of that, it's still the stock market still remains better for investors that are looking at the long term. But if you're a short-term player, definitely you want to go for the fixed income space, because if you're short-term, we're talking about 91 days, you're talking about 181 days. But if you want to play the 365 days, I don't think any investor that want to look at that will be looking at the fixed income space. And also, even if you are playing the 181 days, it depends on your perception on what you think you want to achieve with your fund. People will still prefer the equity market because of the kind of bargain hunting that is there in terms of the price valuation of most of these strong stocks that are going to pay dividend, and not to forget that some of them will also pay interim dividends.
All right, what about sectors that are doing well? We're seeing the NSE oil and gas index up about almost 39% year to date. And we're seeing when you now look at what's playing out with oil prices have been rallying for quite a bit now. They're up around $76 per barrel right now. Do you think this is sustainable? And how do you think that is impacting on sentiments for equities?
Yeah, Ken, you and I know that has been one sector that have suffered a lot of bashing, even during the pandemic. We've seen that sector suffer. So it's just a time for the sector to really try to begin to recover. And I think that's what is happening in that sector. But will we continue to see that rally? We might continue to see those rally, but we must not forget that some of the companies that are listed in the Nigerian Stock Exchange are actually companies that are, just in the marketing aspect of the country, the downstream sector, especially for companies like Owando and Seplat. And with Owando, the challenges they have there, the court issues is still ongoing. So what you could see playing out in terms of price, you see that Seplat has moved from a low of about 400 to a high of about 700. So that is basically what have driven that index. But when you look at others, the fault behind the driving is not commensurate with what we've seen, that Seplat have really boosted that sector of the market. But going forward, that will be sustained. Definitely, it will be sustainable. We continue to see oil price continue to be on the upside. But we don't expect it to continue to be like that. But even if investors and even oil experts are very optimistic that we could see the crude oil going to as 80 to 85 naira. Some are even overestimating that by this time next year you might see the crude price get to $100 per barrel. So when you look at that with this perception in the market, then you want to see the oil sector can continue to give us those numbers that we're seeing.
All right, let's get into one other story that filtered into the market last week, and that's about MTN. Very attractive space when you look at the telecom space, and MTN coming to say that they're looking to sell about 14% to local retail investors. What has the perception to that story been like?
Very good story. Very good for MTN. Remember that MTN also, when they were listed with high-end investors, and now they're saying they want to give 14%, even if we still believe it is fair, because we think that MTN should just come to the market and do a primary market activity, like an initial public offer. but they have not done that. They are also still coming in with their way out shares to release about 14%, which is good. But you need to look at that by the price. And you see that the price of MTN have just been stationary for a while. And I think with this news also, it has not changed investors' perception. But when you try to look at MTN by its price in Airtel, Airtel, then you begin to see that MTN is still definitely on the price, especially in Nigeria with the kind of coverage. Remember that they are the number one telecom company in Nigeria.
But very quickly, Muktar, just before we wrap up, I'd just like to get what your outlook is for the half-year earnings.
My outlook will still be positive if I look at what happened in the first quarter, especially for the banking sector. When you look at Zenith Bank, you look at GTB, then you look at and also UBA. But what we really investors are really looking forward to is that number that might come out from Access Bank. If they have first quarter, they did about private after tax of about 60 billion. And so investors are beginning to see if they can do under 60 billion, that makes it 120 billion. And in a year end, we are looking at 240 billion profit after tax. That would take them almost in the range in the range of GTB and Zenith Bank. And that could just be a trigger that could see that equity move forward. So for me, attractive thing, I still look at the earnings sector. I still have my bullish in the banking stock to come out with good results. And I'm also very looking forward to see what the numbers will be, especially from Access.